All right, so this is my a PowerPoint presentation about me. My name is Madeline, and I am in genetics this semester. This top left picture is of me when for some reason, my parents signed me up for headshots, and that was one of the pictures, and I thought it was nice to include. The bottom left is one from when I was a kid with a really awesome cowlick, and then the picture right underneath the about me is me now. I was born in Lexington, Tennessee, which, as you can see from the map on the left, is kind of in between Memphis and the Murfreesboro, Nashville area. I was raised there pretty much my whole life, and I always go back because my dad still lives there. It's a really, really, really small town, with, a really small population. The top right picture is the Princess Theater, which is the only theater in town. It's one room with a huge screen, and actually back in the day, it used to be a segregated theater to where all the African American people sat up top and all the white people sat at the bottom. The bottom right picture is Scott's Barbecue, which is legendary, and it has probably the best barbecue I've ever eaten, and I still go there to this day because it's just, you know, amazing. This is pictures of my family. The top left picture is a picture of me and my two sisters from my sister's wedding. The My sister on the left, her name's Marley. She and I are the closest in age. And then the middle is my sister Megan. She's the one that got married. The top middle picture is me, my sister Marley, and my mom's in the middle. And then the top right picture is me and my dad. The bottom left picture is of me and my sister Marley, and like I said, we're the closest in age. And then the bottom right picture is a picture of me and my two sisters and my dad from my sister's wedding. Um, in my spare time, I like to cook, I like to go bowling, watch Law& and Order and Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and I like to go to the animal shelter, or hang out with friends, and I just included some little pictures of kind of things that have to do with that. And some of my favorite, talk show hosts or cooking show hosts are Guy Fieri and Ina Garten. So into the genetics portion of this, why should we care about genetics? Genetics helps us to explain what makes you unique. So, why you look the way you do, um, your skin tone, your hair color, things like that. Why family members look alike, why some diseases like diabetes or cancer run in families, genetic predispositions such as alcohol intolerance. And like our professor said, he has a genetic predisposition to not tolerate alcohol very well, so he doesn't drink. And then, sickle cell anemia and malaria. So, people in Africa who are genetically predisposed to sickle cell anemia, if they have sickle cell anemia, then they have a much lower chance of getting malaria than those who don't have the genetic disposition to get that sickle cell anemia and everything. Some examples of why genetics is still important currently are as follows. ATM, this was an article written on the 9th of January of this month. ATM is a protein kinase that is known for its role in coordinating the response to DNA damage. And there's a direct relationship between the mechanism of ATM activation and its effects on cellular metabolism and DNA damage responses in human cells. And that's really important because it, makes sure that everything's fixed and everything like that. So it's really important to, have that. And, recent articles have pointed that out in Science Magazine. Another example is Pacific Northwest salmon. And this article was written on the 10th of January of this month in Science Magazine again, and it's the Chinook salmon. And they're losing their genetic diversity, and they have been for the past 7,000 years. And that's because of, problematic fish populations that are trying to adapt to changing river and ocean conditions. And some other factors include destruction of stream habitats, water diversions for agriculture, and the construction of more than 400 dams across the Columbia River Basin and its main tributary, the Snake River. And these dams prevent salmon from reaching more than half of the river system's spawning habitat. And, all in all, genetics is just really important to us all. Doctors and scientists hope to use our genetic information to diagnose, treat, prevent, and cure many illnesses. Genes are instructions which tell your body how to make all the proteins it needs to survive and grow. And when that goes wrong, it's a huge problem. And the reason why we have genetics and study it is because we can find those problems and try to fix them. So by identifying each of those proteins that could possibly have the problem, scientists hope to better understand how our body works and what's happening when it doesn't work properly. And that goes for humans and animals and fish, birds, everything like that. Hopefully this knowledge will eventually lead to more effective medicines and treatments. So what's happening now isn't necessarily the ideal solution, but it's a kind of a path to get to that good solution. So a knowledge of genetics is fundamental to an understanding of the evolution of population and species. So they take those genetic things and they learn from the past and what's happening now. And it's good to, look at it from an evolutionary time scale to see how we were, hundreds of years ago as to now, and how we have changed to adapt to our environments and things like that. Another reason why genetics is important is because of genetic enhancement. People are using that to, code to see if they can code for something that's not going to be a genetic disorder in their kids, such as Down syndrome. So people are going in and paying quite a bit of money to make sure that their kids aren't genetically disposed to a disorder as fatal as Down syndrome. And they can go in and, select for more athletic genes or more attractive genes and things like that, which we're still getting there, but it's on its way. Genetics is also important for forensics and legal matters. And a really good example of that is the O.J. Simpson trial. That was one of the first examples of human DNA being used in a trial of that magnitude. And because of, O.J. being famous and everything, that was a really big deal. For him to have his DNA used in a trial. And I think that was just a really big deal. And I think it's really important to just constantly study genetics and make sure that we, are keeping up with it, because it's constantly changing. Another example that I've forgotten to include is, the flu, which is not necessarily genetic, but it's always changing. And it's a really good example of us having to adapt to those kinds of things and just try to keep up with it. But yeah, that was my presentation. I hope that you learned a lot about me and why I think genetics is important.